All just getting situated here. We are so excited to be back for another community classroom, and I think today's topic is a really fun one. We're very excited to chat with you about all things yarn. So I know most of you in here must already love yarn, and you just want to get to know some of our favorite yarns a little bit better. So we're going to be here today with Seema and Nicole from Yarn Inspirations, who are going to be chatting about some of our favorite yarns, great ways to use them, and really just all things yarn. Again, I'm Allie W. So if you have any questions throughout the class today, please just let me know in chat, and I will certainly try and get those questions to our lovely hosts here. Awesome. Well, I will pass things over to Seema.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name's Seema, and as Ali mentioned, I'm joined by my colleague Nicole from the Yarn Inspirations design team. And we're super excited because today we have a lot of yarn to show everyone. Let's see, my list has 12 yarns, so I'm just giving everyone like another 30 seconds to join. But if you haven't been to Michael's recently, because you haven't been able to go in store, this is a really good chance for you to see what's in there. Hopefully the camera will be good enough that we can show you the textures, and we've got 4 pattern samples here so we can show you how the yarns work up. And if you have questions about the yarn, you can let us know. We're going to go through each one. We'll talk about the weight, the texture, the yardage on the ball, that kind of thing. And if you have a specific question, you can always let us know, and Nicole or I will try our best to answer them. So without further wait, let's switch to hands, and I will start off with a yarn that you may be familiar with. It's Bernat Blanket Big, and I don't know if you can tell, but you can see the size of my hand and then the size of this ball of yarn. It is huge. This particular one, obviously, it is a jumbo weight yarn. You would use a US 50 knitting needle or crochet hook for this, but I have also seen some people use their hands to work with this yarn because it is so chunky that with patience that could also work. If you really like those, what are those like really giant blankets that you see all over Pinterest and Instagram, this is a great yarn for that. Like a simple knit stitch or single crochet will look really good with it. Bonus, it's polyester, so it's machine washable and dryable, which is making it really good for gifting. This particular yarn, you'll see it's got the little stitch and win flag, so these are only at Michael's. We have a few Bernat yarns that are part of the Stitch and Win campaign, which basically gives you a little code. Somewhere inside of this ball of yarn is a code that you can enter online for a contest. I believe this year's prize is a trip to Ireland, so that's pretty fun. And this particular colorway here, in case you're interested, is called Icy Plum. So it's got a lot of like pinks and grays and purples, but there are, when I went on Michael's this morning, 38 colors plus like another 8 through the Stitch and Win. So if you want a solid gray or a really neutral or some other bright color, there's a pretty good range. So I'm going to swap in here for another yarn. Is there anything you think I should mention, Nicole, about Blanket Big?
No, I think you mentioned everything I would have, and yeah, it really is big.
It really is super fun to work with. Oh, and the yardage, yes. Let's see, so it's pretty short because it's so bulky. It's 32 yards or 29 meters. It's a 300-gram ball, so it's pretty substantial. This particular pattern is on the label, and it's a knit blanket, and it calls for 5 balls. So that can give you, I think, somewhere between 5 to 8-ish, depending on what, if you're using knit or crochet and how big your blanket is going to be. But I've also seen pillows and a few baskets, and poofs, like for, little ottomans, have been really good with it too. So the next yarn that I've got is one that I think a lot of you are probably familiar with. Bernat Blanket is essentially a smaller version of Bernat blanket big. It is a super bulky yarn. It comes in tons of colors. Yes, I went on Michael's this morning and there were 56 colors on there. So you can really, you know, get whatever look you want with this particular yarn. And we have a lot of blanket patterns, pillow patterns, so many things. This particular project on the yarn label, it's a crochet blanket and calls for 6 balls. So I think I've made a few Bernat blanket projects and usually it works out to 6 or so balls depending on what your striping is. You'll need a US 11 knitting needle or crochet hook, so that works out to an 8 millimeter in the millimeters. And again, polyester, machine washable, 300 grams. And this particular colorway is called Grape Ice, which I think is so pretty. I tend to go for the same colors over and over again, so it just so happened that this one worked out with what I like, so it'll be sad to say goodbye. Yeah, Bernat blanket. And let's see what else we've got. The next yarn that I'm going to show is a new one. It is called Bernat Toasty. So I've got it here in 3 colors. This first color here is called Taupe. I'm going to get them all up on screen, hopefully, and then we'll dive in a bit more. This greenish blue one that I'm pulling in is called Frosted Cactus, which I love. And this other one here is called Ocean Blue. I'm going to kind of squish it under the camera so you can see just the variation in the color. It forms a really nice gradient in your projects. And let's see, what can I tell you about this yarn? So you can see it's got a boucle texture, which will offer like a few little tips on working with the boucle. I do find with knitting, if you count your stitches, you'll be okay. It works up for something that's super soft. You can see the core is a bit darker, but you don't actually see that in your final project. You just see this texture, which is really soft. Let's see if we can get that, kind of. The ball is 225 grams. It's 285 yards. It's again a machine washable and dryable yarn, so that's super convenient. It takes a US 10 or a 6 millimeter knitting needle or crochet hook, and it's a bulky yarn. So I do have a project here, which I'm going to show 2 projects with this yarn. So I'll show it close up, and then at the end of the live, I'll switch views so you can see the blanket much larger. So let's see here. The first project I've got here is a knit blanket. Now, if you are a knitter, you might be familiar with this particular pattern. It's a very classic shale pattern. It's an 18 stitch repeat and it's only 4 rows. So there isn't a lot to memorize, but what's super cool about this pattern is we've used 2 colorways. Every 4th row, we're switching back and forth, just carrying the yarn up along the side. And it gives it this really cool wave effect. It plays with the gradient of both colors. So it looks way more complex than it is, which is what I really love about it. And every 4th row, there is a garter stitch row, which adds like this extra ridge. So it's just really, really nice way of seeing the yarn. So this is 2 colors together. And actually the other pattern I have is a pillow with 2 colors together. Hang on. Woo! This one it's not gonna fit. We're gonna, maybe Felicia, could we switch to the front view and then I can show this one. Perfect. So what we've got here is another knit pillow, but you could do something similar with crochet as well. It's worked from corner to corner. And what's really cool about it is you start from this end and you increase all the way. And once you get to this part, you're working every other row or something with the contrasting color, which creates this crazy gradient effect. And then it switches to only the ocean blue shade, which is what gives it this super cool gradient. So it's a really fun design. As you can see, tassels as well. And the back is essentially the same thing. And there's like one seam here that's used, I guess, to like easily insert the pillow. And the front and back are worked separately as well. The pattern name, let's see if I've got it. It's the color/knit pillow. And all of the patterns that we're talking about today in yarns are on michaels.com. So they could probably pop the link in the chat if you're looking for this particular pattern. And I'd love to know what colors, if you're on the Michaels site, you would use for a pillow like this, because I feel like with this taupe color, there's a lot of blending possibilities. So if you want something a bit more subtle, I don't know. What do you think, Nicole?
I was looking for my unmute button. I love this pillow, and I love this boucle texture of toasty. I think it's really, really cool, and the subtle gradients. I really love that blanket you showed. I think I need.
Yeah, I know it's really simple, but it's very satisfying and it feels really nice. And I know primarily this is a home decor yarn. However, I was thinking I could use the boucle for a beret. Like it could be, I don't know, very fashionable kind of, or really cool weaving project.
Yeah.
Because the boucle would just kind of hide your vertical warp and it would be so satisfying. All right, so we can talk more about toasty. If anyone has any questions, let us know, but I will keep moving on and we can always go back to yarns as necessary. Hopefully I won't get us tangled and in a mess. So we've got two yarns here. The first one is one that you probably recognize. It's Bernat Softee Chunky. It's part of Stitch and Win, so there are, let's see here, I think there are 8 shades tied to Stitch and Win, but there are also more that are not part of this. It is a super bulky yarn. If you're just looking for like a classic no fuss yarn to make like a fast hat or scarves or blankets, and you don't want any crazy textures, you just want something, this is a pretty good go-to. I've been using Softee Chunky for a long time, so I feel like I know this one well. But the new one that we have is Softee Chunky Twist. So if you want more of that marled effect, this is a pretty cool yarn. Felicia, if we switched hands, I can show the label. Perfect, thank you. So as you can see here, we've got pattern on the label, and this particular pattern, it is a, let's see, blanket, crochet blanket, and it uses 7 balls. So that, I think that seems about right for the quantity you'd need for this kind of post-stitch design, which does tend to eat a bit more yarn. The yardage on the ball is the same as regular Softee Chunky. I'm just going to double check. Yes. So it's 316 yards. It's a 300 gram ball. Again, it's acrylic, so it's very forgivable for gift season. Honestly, like when you're making people stuff for the holidays, they're not always going to understand the 100% wool or whatever. I've fallen prey to that before. So US 11, and it's an 8mm. This particular colorway, if you're wondering, is called Burgundy. So you can see it's a bit more, it's a brighter red. It's got sort of a candy cane look to it. And the blue color we have here is called Faded Denim, which is a pretty classic go-to color. There are some pretty cool, there's a cool gold shade, which is kind of a sunshine yellow, and other, pretty staples. And let's see what other, oh, I've got a project here. So I don't have a pillow. It is pretty intense. If you're into this, internet might be slow, not sure what's happening there. So we'll give it a second. Nicole, how's that? Can you happen to hear me?
I can hear you. It looks like your screen is frozen, but your voice is smooth.
All right. Well, it's frozen on the pattern, so I'm gonna chat slowly about it so you can see. Um, this particular pattern is a loop stitch pillow, so it's crochet, and what's really cool about it is the marled yarn just sort of makes it super dimensional, like it feels really intense. Kind of looks like a, I don't know, like a Muppet. Gives me Muppet vibes. I don't know why, but it is super fun. I actually have not done loop stitch before. Have you, Nicole?
Yeah, and it's a really like once you get the technique down, it's simple to work. It does use more yarn because you're making those loops. But yeah, I think we got some tutorials on how to do the loop stitch, and it's something that you can do in both knitting and crochet. So yeah, it's really fun to add loops to cuffs, collars, hats, pillows, blankets, sweaters, anything. Like you were saying, yeah, Softee Chunky is a really good kind of everything yarn. Like you were saying, home deck, accessories, even garments and slippers, everything. And it's so easy to care for. It really is a yarn that we've had for a long time that I like using.
For sure, for sure. I am going to pull out, I've lost a yarn ball. Oh, I found it. It is, if you are a Bernat Velvet fan, then you will like Bernat Velvet Plus. It is basically the same, I actually think it's a little different, but it's basically a plusher version of Bernat Velvet. Super, super satisfying to even just have in your stash because it feels so nice. It's a super bulky weight. For an idea of the stitches you'll get in knitting, you're looking at about 7 stitches in 4 inches or 7 single crochet in 4 inches. So it will work up super fast using a US 13 or a 9mm knitting needle or crochet hook. This yarn, it does have some really plush blankets. I have one here. It is going to be tricky to show, so we'll switch later to on camera, but I will sneak some of it in here. You can just sort of see the texture. This is one of Nicole's patterns, I think. It is a knit blanket that's worked from corner to corner in garter stitch, super simple. There are increases on either end that the increases kind of become a bit invisible because of the yarn. So it just lets you form, you know, the diagonal of this particular, let the diagonal of the stitch show rather. So you start from, let's say, this corner, and you're just working back and forth, adding stitches on each end until you're happy with the size, and then you start decreasing. So super plush, really like this yarn. I think there are about 10 really nice colors on michaels.com. This particular shade, which is called Plum Purple, has this kind of tonal effect to it. So it's solid, but it's got like speckles. I don't know what the word is for this one, Nicole. But
I find with the velvet yarns too, like just how the light hits it will change the color. It's there's a lot of depth to it. I really like it.
Yes, like right now my room it's bright, but it's also getting cloudy, and so I feel like this is getting darker, but it's so nice. Anyway, I'm going to hide this blanket because it's taken up a lot of space at the moment on my table. But I'd love to know what people would like to make with Velvet Plus. Like this particular blanket on the label, it is a crochet blanket. It takes 9 balls because it's a really dense stitch. But we also have done some pillow patterns that take 1 to 2 balls. So if you don't want like a full size blanket, you can still, you know, figure that out. And that pillow, I have seen a few questions about the Bernat Toasty pillow. It's called the color/knit pillow.
And I have dropped the pattern PDF in the chat here for anyone who's looking for that.
Oh, wonderful. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more yarns, and then we can sort of go more in depth on any of them if people have any questions. So this one, I think most people know, Red Heart Super Saver. The funny thing about this is I've seen Super Saver since I can remember. However, I have not seen this color before, which goes to show you can always be surprised by products. So this particular color is called Caron Fleck, and you can see that it's got these flecks of brown and black and gray in the yarn, which I think is so perfect for fall. Obviously in this roundup of yarn, we're including a good range of our new stuff and then our go-tos. So the reason this one's a go-to, it's a worsted weight. So it just kind of works for so many patterns. Again, machine washable and dryable, a bit more affordable than, you know, I'd say a lot of yarns. Like it's kind of, if you need to crank out a lot of blankets or something, this is a really good option. And there are tons of colors. I'd love to know what other projects people have made with Super Saver. I recently found a blanket that I'd made my grandmother like 10 years ago or something. It was passed back to me and it was still fine. So that was very satisfying. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about Super Saver other than it works. Anything on your end, Nicole?
Yeah, same. I've actually been working on at the beginning of the pandemic quarantine, we did a stitch along, and I started working on one of our patterns is called like the chromatic blanket. Yeah, so the granny square one. And so I've been still working away on that and making it for my daughter. And like you said, any color she thinks of, I am like, I'm sure that that exists in Super Saver, and it always does. So yeah, wide range of colors. Like you got your seasonal colors, your baby colors, your home deck accessories, and like you said, it's really easy to care for.
Yeah,
it's great option.
I see some questions of people asking, where do you pull the yarn from? So interestingly with Super Saver, they've got actually noted it on the ball, which we don't have on all of ours, but usually if you're lucky, there will be a little piece hanging out from the center, and then you can pull straight from the center, and it's very satisfying because your skein of yarn isn't rolling all over your table. But you can also look for, if you can't find the center, or sometimes you have to sort of dig in there to find the center, you can pull from the outside of the ball as well. Usually I prefer to remove the label to do that because it'll obviously just slide around more easily, but your skein of yarn will start going all about. But whatever way is easier for you is usually fine. And for someone asking about the project types, like you could use it for clothing, and I have seen, you know, cardigans and stuff. It's not like, let's say, as soft as like a Caron Simply Soft or something. So like keep that in mind. It's definitely one of those more sturdy, hard wearing acrylic yarns. And we've got a few other great, oh, I've got Caron Simply Soft actually, which is another one of those go-to worsted weight yarns. You can instantly see actually on camera that this has got a bit more of a shine, like there's a bit of luster, if you will, to the yarn. It feels a bit more slinky when worked up than Super Saver. Also machine washable and dryable, and I have seen a lot of baby items made with Caron Simply Soft. I know Daisy Farm Crafts, who we work with a lot, they love Caron Simply Soft. They use them for a lot of their baby blanket patterns. So if you've seen those classic gingham blankets, the shades, it looks like my hand view is frozen. How's it looking for you, Nicole?
Oh, whoops, I was on mute, but I said you look great. Your hands are moving.
Okay, that's good. Sorry, everyone. So yeah, with Caron Simply Soft, again, there are a lot of colors, not as many as Super Saver, but there are still tons. It is it calls for a US 8 crochet hook or knitting needle. I think it works great for both crafts. And again, machine washable and dryable. So 315 yards in one ball. So it's pretty decent yardage as well. You don't need a ton to make projects. This particular, it's a spectrum blanket, so it calls for 6 balls because it's using one of each, but even still, for a full-size blanket, that is not bad at all. And this particular color we chose because it's called Autumn Red, which is the mood that we are feeling with the latest set. I see someone asking if it's a little thinner weight. So it is a bit on the lighter side. See if I can find
Oh, you're brave. You're going to pull from the center.
I don't know, I'm a little scared.
Well, we have 289 eyes watching it.
No, there's too much pressure. There's too much pressure. We're gonna just take it over from the outside. So you can kind of see, let's see, compared to Super Saver, it's a little bit lighter, not crazy. I think you'll get 18 stitches with Caron Simply Soft. With Super Saver, usually you're looking at 17 to 18, depending on what needle size you're using, if you're talking about knitting. So they're very close, but they'll definitely feel different. And thanks, Janetta. Sorry to not pull from the center. I feel like I should have, but I got really nervous.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
That's
yeah,
okay.
I love Simply Soft for so many things. It's a lot softer than Super Saver and some of our other acrylics. So it's 100% acrylic, but it's really soft. It's Simply Soft. And drapey. So while maybe I wouldn't choose Super Saver as my first choice for a garment, I would have no problems knitting something up for somebody that I love in Simply Soft.
Oh, totally agree with that. I saw someone asking a question about blocking Caron Simply Soft. I feel like if you wash it and just pin it out, I mean, acrylic is always a bit different. Sometimes you could like hover really far away with your steam, but you got to be careful because you don't want to like flatten your stitches or anything. I'd prefer to just wash it and pin it out. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, the idea of an iron near.
Yeah, can't go near this.
I had a little bit of a heart palpitation there.
Yeah, no.
Or another thing that another way we like to block sometimes is to like wet a towel.
Oh yes.
And wring out the excess water and lay the damp towel over something, because the weight and the moisture will kind of flatten things out. It takes a little time, but it's a good way.
Yeah, that is really good. And I see Marcia asking about what does it mean to pin it out. Basically, if you have like rust-proof pins, like make sure they can handle water, and you have those foam boards or a cork board or something, you can sort of look at the measurements of what you want, what the pattern says the item should be, like if you were doing a sweater or something, and you can imagine this was my foam piece, stick pins in the corners and then periodically along the edges of your item to sort of keep it in shape while it's damp, and then once it's dry it'll sort of help keep it in that shape. So I've got another really soft yarn in another fall color. This one is from Red Heart. It's called Soft Essentials. So this is a bulkier yarn than Simply Soft. It is a weight 5. If you're crocheting, it's saying about 11 single crochets and 13 rows would give you 4 inches, and 15 stitches and 19 rows for knitting. Again, it's acrylic and machine washable and dryable. This particular color is called Deep Red, and that seems about right to me. It is very soft. The pattern on this ball band here, it calls for three balls for this sort of like stripy scarf, but the yardage on this particular put up is 131 yards. So again, this seems like it's another great like accessory yarn too, because it's super soft. I don't think I've made much more than a hat with it before, because we have so many yarns. So if anyone else has made something with soft essentials, let us know. And we've got another Red Heart yarn in another great fall inspired colorway. This one here is called Sunrise, but Nicole, tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like I can see autumn shades of like the trees and the skies and grass. It's just all in a ball.
You are not wrong. This is I have been wanting to try yarn. I keep seeing photos of it and projects made of it and it's so beautiful, and I haven't had a chance to work with it yet, but I love it. Like, I love how it looks. So
yes, I agree. I've seen a lot of even some cool two color, like people will take two versions or two colorways of Unforgettable and work them every 2 rows or something, and it looks super cool. Lots of great shawls and cardigans I've seen with this particular yarn, but of course you could do a lot of things. Like I've also seen some of those, I feel like they're I'm blanking on the name of the pattern, but some cool sort of geometric pillows and blankets where you're again rotating every 2 rows, like in a mitered square or something, and it's very, very fun.
I feel like I should know this, but what's the yarn content? Is it 100% acrylic?
It is, and it's really soft. Kathy Blossom says that they made a shawl out of it and love it. Living in South Texas, we are not wearing fall stuff yet. Ooh, lucky. Although I kind of love fall because it means like I can really layer on the knits and it's okay.
I opened my box of sweaters the other day and it was like saying hi to old friends. I even forgot about some of them. So
yes, that's always the best feeling. Yeah. Michelle Bauer is suggesting the Kaleidoscope shawl on Yarn Inspirations. It's a pattern for Unforgettable yarn. Yes, that's a great shawl pattern for sure. And the yardage on this, it's 270 yards or 246 meters. It's a worsted weight, as we mentioned. They're using US 8 or 5 millimeter knitting, 10 6 millimeter crochet hook. I feel like I might go down, but I guess it depends on your stitch pattern. Like obviously do a gauge swatch and you'll see. I see someone asking, do I have to wind every skein into a ball? Absolutely not. One of the benefits of buying yarn like this is that you can just work with it, unless you don't want to, straight up as it is. If you're buying yarn that comes in like giant loops or hanks, then yes, you'll need to wind it. But this particular yarn, okay, I went in, I pulled from the center and I think it worked. It worked. Okay, so
what
for
anyone, unforgettable experience.
I don't even think I pulled from the right part, but hey, it worked. So as you can see, I just sort of reached into the center, tried to find the loose bit, and as long as you've got one strand coming out of your ball of yarn, you have found the center, and you can just work right from that end. See if I can find it. But you can also, if that is intimidating, especially when you're new to knitting, you can just pull off the yarn label And usually you can find, yeah, the outside, and you can just work straight off that. And every couple of stitches or rows, you might need to unwind a bit to make it easier, so you don't have to pull every time you're stitching. One of those things for whoever that asked that question, that once you're working with it, that might make more sense. Why am I rippling? What? Oh, the label, sorry. If you missed it, we're looking at Red Heart Unforgettable. Oh, and somebody else already found it. And I see somebody asking about a sock yarn, and I do have one very shortly that I'm going to show. I have 2 more yarns, then we'll show off the projects again. And then, like, if there are any questions, please be sure to put them in the chat, because we've got some time until another 25 minutes that we can answer any questions that come up. So my table is filled with yarn right now. This is lovely. It actually is, though, very exciting. The yarn that I'm showing here is Patons Classic Wool Worsted. We are showing it in Caron, which is a go-to neutral creamy white, probably one of my favorite yarns because it is so versatile. Being worsted weight, obviously there are tons of pattern options for worsted weight yarns. It's 100% wool. So if you're looking for warmth, if you're looking to make an heirloom sweater, if you want to make the knives out sweater because you've seen 50 million people make them on Reddit or something, this is a great option. There is a pattern that I keep seeing pop up, especially in the last couple months, because I think a lot of people are really digging into long knitting projects and crochet projects. The honeycomb Aran sweater has been really popular, but we've also got a ton of other worsted weight sweater patterns if that's what you're feeling with this. This is hand wash, so hand wash cold. You do not want to put this in the machine unless you want felted fabric, which is also something that you might want to intentionally do. So if you are gifting this something with this, be sure to let the person know of the care instructions. There are about 8 or so colors, I want to say, on michaels.com. So there are some great neutrals like grays, blacks. There's a marled black and white, I think, or gray and white. So if you really want that sort of classic wool yarn, this is a really great one. Someone asking about roving yarn, what the difference is. So a roving is, let's see if I can pull out this yarn outside here. So this particular yarn you can see is plied. So what that means is we've got multiple strands that have been twisted together. If it sort of acts as one strand when you're working with it, of course, but if you were to try to pull those plies apart, you would see that, okay, this particular yarn is a 3-ply yarn. Roving yarn, however, only has one of these plies. So Unforgettable, I guess, is kind of like a rove. It's only got one visible twist that I can see. So I would say that of the options, there is, I'm trying to think about it. Like there is also like wool roving will behave a bit differently than an acrylic roving, I feel. And worsted weight, so it's a really good question. As you can see on all of our ball bands, there are little icons that indicate like, okay, this is a medium 4 weight yarn or a 5 bulky yarn. So that kind of gives you, these numbers are a scale that's determined by the Craft Yarn Council. So it kind of gives you an indication of, okay, anything that's around this thickness is considered a weight 4. So a medium weight 4 is usually referred to as worsted weight. I'm blanking on why. Do you know, Nicole? Like why we call it worsted? I know worsted can also deal with the spin of the yarn, but I don't think that's what
I think worsted comes from what I understand, yeah, like how they would rate yarns kind of before our time, maybe.
It's
Yeah.
like one of those older terms that we just keep using. And
Yeah, so I think that the worsted yarn referred to, like how you were saying, a specific way the yarn was made, and maybe it was usually at a certain gauge, and now maybe the yarn
mm-hmm.
stuck as a way to reference the thickness, maybe.
Yeah. With these weight icons, so we've got like the weight 4, it usually corresponds to a number of stitches you have in an inch. So I think we've got some, like in our Knitting 101 and Crochet 101 class on the Michael's YouTube channel, there is some info on checking gauge and what gauge is, if any of this is unfamiliar to you. So definitely check that out. Just because something is worsted weight does not mean the gauge is the same for all worsted weight yarns. So that's really important. You can't necessarily use Patons Classic Wool for a Red Heart Super Saver project. It will not come out exactly the same. The reason being is within, let's say, weight 4, this particular yarn is thinner than this one over here. And it might not look that obvious on camera, but once you start working up with it, you'll sort of see how your stitches come out. With Classic Wool worsted, if you're knitting with it, within 4 inches, you'll get 20 stitches and approximately 26 rows using a US 7 4.5 millimeter knitting needle. And for crochet, you'll get 14 single crochets and 17 rows in 4 inches. Obviously, if you don't get that, you can play with your crochet hook or knitting needle size to sort of get the gauge for what your particular pattern uses. But just an idea wanted to mention, because I also referred to Super Saver as worsted, you'll see that it's 17 stitches and 23 rows. So it's a very different result in like resulting fabric when you're done. Thank you, V, for joining us. And I have one last yarn to show off before we take a closer look at the projects. And I feel like Nicole could probably describe this one better than me. It is Patons Kroy Socks. Nicole, anything you want to mention?
Oh, I love this stuff. Socks are probably my favorite thing to knit, and always have been. They're like my favorite shove in my bag and take around everywhere, and they're so practical. And Kroy Socks is definitely, actually just yesterday I put on a pair of socks and I realized they're made from Kroy socks, and I've had them for 10 years. And so I've had the same pair of Kroy socks. I actually have multiple pairs of Kroy socks, and they're all that age. So I noticed somebody earlier was asking what fingering weight. So like Seema just explained, it's the different weights of the yarn. And fingering yarn is super thin. It's not as thin as lace, but we're heading in that direction with it. And it's great for socks. I love the feeling of those tiny needles and the tiny yarn. It's completely opposite of the first yarn Seema showed us with the Bernat bag, blanket bag. But yeah, it makes amazing socks that stand up really well. And we've also been venturing into other projects with Kroy, which has been a dream since I started working at Spinrite. I've always wanted Fair Isle Kroy sweaters.
Yes.
So that's Kroy Socks FX. And from our line of FX colors, that slowly kind of gradient effect, and they kind of tonal colors. They are tweedy and marled, and they're just beautiful. So we have some patterns for socks on our website, but we also have like there's a beautiful shawl and wrap. A new pattern coming out that was just shot a couple weeks ago, which I'm very excited. There's a crochet top down Fair Isle yoke sweater in kroy. That's very exciting. I think it's
really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're not afraid of a finer yarn and knitting at a smaller gauge, this stuff, I love it. It comes in so many good colors. We have a few solids. We have these FX colors that Seema's showing you. And they come in a lot of self-striping colorways too, which is just amazing for socks. Like, I love how excited people get about striped socks because they think that you're some kind of mad genius. But it's just the yarn doing the work. So,
yes,
yeah.
it looks so cool. This particular colorway is called Copper Colors. I had only seen the photo of it. I have to say, in person, I am loving it. It's like browns, golden hues into maroons and reds, and just gives me all the, I guess this is the equivalent of if you were a pumpkin spice latte person, that is this. And this gives me that feeling.
Oh, well, you know, this would look so good. Ugg boots walking to go get a latte.
I see someone asking about the number of balls you might need for a pair of adult socks. Any expert? I feel like, I don't know, 2? I feel like
Yeah,
I should
so
have 2.
these are 50-gram balls. So you do need 2 balls if you want to make 2 socks. However many feet you're knitting for, that's how many balls you would need. You can squeeze a pair of ankle socks.
Yes.
Out of 1 ball, which is exciting. I know Catherine, one of our fellow designers, loves knitting little ankle socks out of this stuff, and she can get a pair out of just 1 ball.
Yes, yes. I've seen the ankle socks, and a smaller shoe size will help. And Nicole has done this really cool. Oh, I'm forgetting the name, but they're essentially color block effect socks where the foot is in one color and the leg portion is in another kroy socks FX shade, and it looks super cool. So don't be afraid, even though it's striping already or having like that gradient effect, you can still play with more than one color to get like super unique socks. So Felicia, if you want to switch to the front facing camera, I'll re-show some of the blankets in the last bit of time that we have so that you can see the scale of it. I did see I got another message about this particular toasty, Bernat toasty blanket. It is huge. Hopefully you can kind of see on camera how much this sort of drapes. Like, it's got a really nice light but warm at the same time. And the pattern name is the Simple Shale Knit Blanket, and it is on michaels.com using taupe and frosted cactus. So this one's super nice. It's just rectangular, and on the back, if you're wondering, people are always wondering what the back looks like. So the same pattern, but you can see the color changes in a different way. I kind of like how that looks too, actually. And let's see, we've got that pillow, which everyone saw. See if I can show you up close a bit better now. Yep. And, oh, Nicole, I have a great blanket that I forgot to show. It was not on my list. It is so nice. It's probably because I want to keep it. It is so nice. If you stuck around, you are here to see this beautiful plaid crochet blanket. I am so amazed by this particular pattern. Obviously, I did not write it.
What yarn is that? Toasty?
This is Toasty, and it uses 3 shades. So the way it works, it's crocheted with 2 colors per like section, I guess, or like row area. So you're working, you will have to divide up your ball of yarn into multiple balls of yarn for this to work, because you're basically going to work with this particular shade, then switch to your second color. So each one of these is a separate block of yarn. if that makes sense, or like wound off bit. The vertical lines though, don't worry, you don't have to keep track of that. That's actually added on after using a surface slip stitch. So you're taking your crochet hook and inserting it into the fabric and just basically forming loops or chains up the blanket to create the vertical lines. And I think every, I want to say 7th row or something, you're throwing in another color for one row just to make that sort of plaid effect really come to life. It is so nice. Like, actually, really, I need more time to knit and crochet. This, you know, and the back, it looks pretty much the same. You can see the vertical slip stitches have more of like a chained, like it's not a uniform line. It's kind of got a dotted line, if you're wondering what the back looks like, but I think it looks good from both ends. And 3 colors of Bernat toasty, if you're wondering. Yeah, what a cool boucle. So, and up close, in case anyone wonders what that looks like. Can you tell I like it? And we've got the Velvet Plus blanket here. So this was that knit garter stitch, corner to corner. I apologize, it's very slinky. So it's kind of falling, but you can kind of get a sense of the scale once you look at the pattern. I'm 5'4" or around there, so it's about my height, maybe a bit less, less ahead. And in terms of the stitch, if you want to see it super close up, you can see how the light hits it because of the garter stitch. It is really fun.
That looks like it has a satisfying kind of heftiness to it too. Yes. Like, is it weighted feeling at all?
Yeah, it is. It is like you kind of have to pick it all up together. It's very, it's quite a project. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I did see, yes, Sally Stevens mentioned you could carry the yarn for the plaid. I think you could. I don't know if the pattern is written that way and I don't remember, but you could. I think it would just use more yarn because you're carrying it stranded, and it'll be heavier than this particular one because you're going to have that extra bit of yarn being carried along the color that's not most visible. And the blanket is called the Mad for Plaid crochet blanket, I think. It's not on my list, but it's on michaels.com. If you go under projects and search for blankets, it'll be there. But yeah, to Sally's point, it would mean you wouldn't have to weave in all those extra ends. So, you know, you could choose whichever method works. It will change the quantity of yarn you need though. So you might want to have extra on hand. Actually probably would need to make sure that works okay. And I see someone asking about contacting designers if you have questions about patterns. We do, on the Yarn Inspiration side of things, we have a contact us, and our customer service team will usually try to answer pattern questions as best as possible. And if they can't answer it, they come to us and then we'll try to explain or adjust the pattern or whatever is necessary. Name of the pattern for the pillow, if you missed it, was the color/knit pillow. Yeah, and I know this Saturday, I believe, is I Love Yarn Day. A lot of people in the knitting and crochet community are celebrating, so this was a perfect topic for this week. There is so much yarn. So I hope this was just a taste of what is available. So hopefully this is helpful. And if you have any last questions, we've got 6 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And I just wanted to let everyone know, so we actually have a number of classes this Saturday, so please feel free to join us. Sign up at michaels.com/online classes. And we have a whole bunch of different classes going on pretty much all day on Saturday. So definitely get ready to join us there.
Very nice. And I see someone asking about like pilling with Bernat blanket after washing, does that happen? No, I mean, I have a Bernat blanket that I use regularly and wash it, I don't know, at least every 2, maybe sometimes every 4 weeks. I don't know, maybe it should be more, but it's been okay. And like our yarns are wash tested, so make sure that it can hold up. And especially if they're labeled baby, then that means that they've met like baby certification for, making sure that they're good quality and will hold up. So hopefully that helps. The name of the last slinky velvet pattern, the blanket pattern, is the Cozy Knit Bias Blanket. So, I see, Donna, this is a really good question. How do you match colors as you join the second ball of yarn to a pattern when the yarn has multiple colors? So I do find this easier with cakes. I don't want to jump and reach that on camera, but I'll try to show it with Unforgettable. Usually this works better with like if you're working with like a Caron cakes or something and there are broad bands of stripes. I'll usually take from the center. I'll sort of say, okay, I'm starting, let's say a shawl, or I'm halfway through my shawl and I need to continue with red. I'll kind of sort of pull apart the ball from the center or the cake from the center and try to find where that next shade begins. So I don't know, Nicole, if you have another way of doing this, but I have made a tangled mess on camera. But typically I do this with cakes and not just a random ball of yarn. And it's easier to pull out the yarn, see where that section of color changes, cut the yarn, and then start working with that. Then I typically try to end the previous project that I'm working with, not necessarily at the end of the ball, but at the end of the last color change. So that way you can go directly from like yellow into a red, and I see Julie asking what a cake is, and I only see one and it is really high for me to reach. But if you go to michaels.com in the Caron cakes section, you'll see some great examples of like latte cakes and swirl cakes and all different. And it's just the format of the ball looks like a cake, and you can pull very easily from the center and it sits flat on your table or your workspace, wherever it is. And thank you everyone for joining. I really love everyone's questions, and it doesn't matter if you're beginner or really experienced knitter or crocheter, it's always fun to talk about yarn and see what's out there. I am going to switch to gallery view because I feel like some people said they wanted to share projects. Kathy says they've got a camera with, oh, I see your shawl, Kathy.
Oh,
that's
so
fabulous.
Oh, that's so fun.
That's awesome.
Where is she? I want to see. There's 14, how many? 11 pages. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, and I see Barbara showing a project. Nice.
Sabrina's got a zigzag going.
Yeah. Marsha's got, I see like a wavy crochet, maybe?
Oh.
No, not at all. I can't tell.
Valerie, I think, is that blanket stripes?
Oh, there's so many great projects.
Oh, I love this. I love that everybody came to class knitting and crocheting.
I know. This, honestly, it's so inspiring. See everyone.
Oh, yeah. We got a nice Marsha with her granny stripes.
Rhonda's got a crochet or knit chevron blanket. Rhonda's got a project there. Lots of projects. Sally. So many. Lovely to see everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us. And
awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And like I said, just check back online for more classes at michaels.com/online classes. And like I said, come celebrate I Love Yarn Day with us on Saturday. We would love to see you there for our classes.
wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.